Summary: the Jade Emperor appointed Wukong as Bi Mawen, and after Wukong learned that he was only a 9th-rank sesame official, he went down to the heaven and set up the banner of the Monkey King. The Jade Emperor had no choice but to ask Wukong to take care of the peach garden. Not long after, all the fairy peaches, elixir, and fairy wine were eaten by Wukong. When the Jade Emperor learned that Wukong had absconded in fear of crime, he was furious and ordered the heavenly soldiers to arrest him. It is said that after Wukong became Bi Mawen, he waited on those horses day and night, and in a few days, he raised those 1,000 heavenly horses to their full flesh and fat. One day, all the supervisors arranged a banquet to congratulate Wukong, and Wukong was very proud. After drinking a few cups, Wukong asked all the supervisors, "I have been here for more than a month. I don't know what rank official Bi Mawen is." All the supervisors said, "You have no rank. You are not in the top class." Wukong said, "No rank. I think it is the biggest." All the supervisors explained that they were not even the smallest officials. If the horse is well fed, it should be done. If it is not well fed, it will be punished. Wukong heard this and jumped up. "Wow, bullying my grandson, thinking that I was in Wukong Mountain, called the king and ancestor. But here I am, a low-level official." Wukong huffed, overturned the table, and shouted, "I won't do it. I won't do it. Go back to my Wukong Mountain." He took out the golden cudgel from his ear, shook it until it was as thick as a bowl, and beat it all the way out of the imperial horse supervisor, and rushed out of the Nanqing Gate. Back at Wukong Mountain, the 4 strong generals were leading the soldiers to practice, and Wukong shouted angrily, "Little ones, the Monkey King is here." The group of monkeys rushed over together and invited the Monkey King to ascend the throne, and then asked eagerly, "Your Majesty has been away for decades. What kind of official has been appointed?" Wukong was confused. "I only went there for a few months. How come it took decades?" The monkeys said, "Your Majesty, you don't know that one day in the sky is equal to 1 year in the world. Your Majesty must be very proud." Wukong said, "Don't mention it. Quickly bring some wine to calm me down." At this moment, 2 one-horned ghost kings asked to see him, and they also wanted to ask Wukong how the official was doing. Wukong told the story angrily, and the 2 one-horned ghost kings said, "Your Majesty has supernatural powers. How can raising a horse be unyielding? Why don't you just call yourself a great sage equal to heaven?" Wukong immediately turned his worry into joy. "Good idea. Great idea. Why didn't my old grandson think of it?" Wukong called for generals and said, "Put up a big banner for me quickly, and write the words 'a great sage equal to heaven' on it. From now on, you will call me a great sage equal to heaven, and you are not allowed to be called great king." Besides, in the court that day, there were many clamors that Bi Mawen thought he was a small official, so he went to the palace of heaven instead. The Jade Emperor issued a decree, which king will lead the heavenly soldiers to capture the monster monkey. Li Jing, the heavenly king of Tota, and the 3rd Prince Naja flashed out from the squadron, and said, "Long life! I am a humble minister. I am willing to catch this monster." The Jade Emperor immediately appointed Li Jing as the Grand Marshal of conquering demons, and Naja as the great god of the Santen Hai Hui. The heavenly king Tota and Naja ordered the 3 armies, and ordered the giant spirit god to be the vanguard. They drove to Huaguo Mountain in a mighty manner. The gods came to Huaguo Mountain and set up camp. The giant spirit gods won the Zuanhe axe and came to the outside of Shuilian cave to call out. The monkeys outside the cave were terrified, scrambling into the cave in a panic, shouting as they ran, "Trouble! Trouble! Disaster is upon us!" Upon hearing that heavenly soldiers had arrived, the great sage said loudly, "My little ones, don't be afraid. Even if the heavens fall, I, Sun Wukong, will hold them up." The great sage put on his armor and led the monkey army out of the cave to confront the enemy. The giant spirit god shouted, "You untamed monkeys, daring to rebel against the Jade Emperor, quickly return with me. If you utter half a word of dissent, I will immediately crush you." The great sage angrily shouted, "You impudent god, open your eyes and recognize who I, Sun Wukong, am before speaking nonsense. Go back and tell the Jade Emperor to promote me to the position of the great sage equal to heaven, and then there will be peace in the world. If he doesn't listen to me, I'll storm into the elixir palace, and his dragon bed won't remain intact." The giant spirit god let out 3 cold sneers. HMPH, 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 great sage equal to heaven, I'll make you one right now. The giant spirit god swung his axe and attacked, but the great sage remained calm and caught it. It was an intense battle. The giant spirit god's large axe was like a phoenix through flowers, while the monkey king's golden cudgel was like a dragon playing in water. Onlookers were getting dizzy watching the battle, and suddenly, there was a crack sound. Upon closer inspection, it was revealed that the handle of the giant spirit god's axe had broken into 2 pieces. The giant spirit god hurriedly retreated to save his life. The great sage called from behind, "Coward, coward, don't run too fast. Be careful not to twist your ankle." The giant spirit god ran back to his camp and said to the heavenly king Li Jing, "The monkey spirit is indeed extremely skilled in magic. Your subordinate cannot defeat him." The heavenly king was furious and said, "All right, you have dampened my spirits. I'll behead you." Naja, the prince, advised, "Father, please calm down. Let me go and defeat this monkey demon." Naja confronted Wukong. Wukong, upon seeing the prince, inquired, "Who are you, young sir? What brings you here to find me?" Naja shouted, "Mischievous monkey, I am Naja, the 3rd prince of the tower-toppling heavenly king, and I've come to capture you." The great sage laughed and said, "You still have baby teeth and haven't even shed your baby hair. Do you think you can catch me? Come, come, come. I'll stand here without moving. Let you take a few swings." Naja, infuriated, shouted, "Transform!" In an instant, he grew 3 heads and 6 arms, holding 6 different weapons: the demon-slaying sword, the demon-cutting blade, the demon-binding rope, the demon-subduing staff, the embroidered ball, and the fire wheel. Wukong's heart pounded with fear, thinking, "This young lad also possesses some tricks. I can't let him underestimate me." The great sage also shouted loudly and transformed, becoming 3-headed and 6-armed. With his golden banded staff shimmering, he transformed into 3 clones. This battle shook the earth and darkened the skies. On one side, the heavenly soldiers cheered and waved their banners, while on the other side, the monkey demons shouted and cheered. This commotion frightened the demon kings from various caves, as well as the ghosts and monsters throughout the mountains, leading to cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. After fighting for more than 30 rounds, they couldn't determine who was stronger. Monkey King took advantage of the chaos, quickly plucked a hair from his body. With a shout, he transformed into a fake Monkey King, intercepting Naja. Monkey King's true form leaped and landed behind Naja, striking his left arm with his staff. Naja, still not fully comprehending, had already been struck on the arm, causing him to cry out in pain. Ouch! Naja hastily withdrew his magic, and his 6 weapons returned to his body. He fled in defeat. Seeing his 2 defeats, General Li Jing had no choice but to return to report to the Jade Emperor before taking further action. Upon hearing the report, the Jade Emperor considered giving Sun Wukong the honorary title of Great Sage equal to heaven in order to pacify him and maintain peace in the world. The Jade Emperor approved the suggestion, and Bai Jinxing the Venus carried an imperial edict to Flower Fruit Mountain for the 2nd time to confer the title of Great Sage equal to heaven upon Sun Wukong. Great Sage equal to heaven was overjoyed to see that the Jade Emperor had bestowed upon him the title. He happily followed Bai Jinxing back to the heavenly court. The Jade Emperor, upon seeing Sun Wukong accept the title of the Great Sage equal to heaven again, said, "Sun Wukong, now that you are appointed as the Great Sage equal to heaven, this is the highest rank you can achieve. Please don't cause trouble anymore." Sun Wukong nodded repeatedly in agreement. The Jade Emperor ordered the construction of the Great Sage equal to heaven palace on the right side of the peach orchard. He assigned 2 celestial attendants to serve Sun Wukong. Finally, Sun Wukong was content and delighted with this arrangement. In a short period of time, the great sage became well acquainted with the 4 heavenly kings, the 28 constellations, and other heavenly deities, regardless of who they were. He treated them all as brothers and addressed them with familiarity. To keep him from causing trouble, the Jade Emperor appointed him to manage the peach garden. Upon arriving at the peach garden, the great sage saw the peaches, which were large and colorful, totaling 3600 trees. Wukong stamped his foot, and the earth deity appeared to explain that in front, there were 1200 peach trees that bore fruit every 3000 years, and those who ate them would become immortals. In the middle, there were another 1200 trees that bore fruit every 6000 years, granting longevity and eternal youth to those who consumed them. Finally, in the back, there were 1200 trees that bore fruit every 9000 years, allowing those who ate them to share the same lifespan as heaven and earth, in harmony with the sun and moon. Upon hearing this, Wukong felt delighted but realized that he couldn't pick a peach to taste as the earth deity and the guardians were closely following him, leaving him with no opportunity to do so. Wukong's eyes rolled, and he said to the heavenly beings, "Wait outside by the gate. I'll take a short nap in this pavilion." Seeing the heavenly beings leave the garden, Wukong quickly removed his official robes in 3 or 4 leaps and climbed up a tree. He picked the ripest peaches, eating 2 with 1 bite and 3 with 1 gulp, devouring them wildly. With a bloated belly, he jumped down from the tree, put on his official attire, and walked out of the peach garden, pretending as if nothing had happened. Afterward, every day or two, the great sage would visit the garden to feast heartily. After a few days, the Queen Mother of the West decided to hold a peach banquet. 7 fairy maidens, dressed in red, blue, white, black, purple, yellow, and green, were ordered to the garden to pick the peaches. When they reached the entrance, the guardian spirits stopped them and said, "This year, the great sage is in charge of the peach garden, so we must inform him of your presence." The 7 fairy maidens called for him, and the guardian spirits searched the garden, but there was no sign of him. In reality, the great sage had eaten a few peaches, transformed into a tiny 2-inch tall figure, and fallen asleep on a branch. The 7 fairy maidens couldn't return empty-handed, so the celestial officials suggested the great sage must have gone out of the garden to meet with friends. "You can go ahead and pick the peaches, and I will relay your message to him later." The 7 fairy maidens entered the garden and first picked 2 baskets of peaches from the trees at the front. Then they picked 3 baskets from the trees in the middle. When they reached the trees at the back, the 7 fairy maidens were surprised. They saw that the fruit on these trees was sparse, with only a few peaches left, and those peaches had green skins and stems. After searching for a while, they found a peach that was half red and half white on the southern branch. The fairy in the green dress stepped forward and reached for the branch. The fairy in the red dress was about to pick it, but suddenly let out a scream. It turned out that Sun Wukong was sleeping on the branch, and he was awakened by the commotion, revealing his true form. Sun Wukong shouted, "Who dares to boldly steal my peaches?" The 7 fairy maidens all knelt down and explained the situation. The great sage replied with a mix of anger and joy, "Fair maidens, please rise. Since it's a banquet hosted by Queen Mother, I wonder who the invited guests are. Could it be that they've invited me, the great sage?" The 7 fairy maidens replied, "According to the usual practice, the invitations were sent to bodhisattvas, holy monks, arhats, the upper 8 caves, the middle 8 caves, the lower 8 caves, and various other divine beings." With a furrowed brow, the Monkey King thought, "If they haven't invited me, I should go and investigate." Facing the celestial maidens, he said, "I apologize." He then began to chant a spell and said, "Stop, stop, stop." The 7 celestial maidens stood frozen in place, wide-eyed and unable to move a muscle, under the effects of the great sage's magic, known as the immobilization spell. The great sage leaped onto his auspicious cloud and flew straight towards the jade pool. On the way, he encountered the barefoot immortal. The great sage came up with a plan and said to the barefoot immortal, "The Jade Emperor has asked me to inform all the heavenly immortals that they should first pay their respects to Lord Tangming in the Hall of Divine Light before attending the banquet." The barefoot immortal, although feeling somewhat puzzled, didn't think much of it and turned around to head to the Hall of Divine Light. The great sage smirked and with a wave, transformed himself into the barefoot immortal. Arriving at the jade pool, He saw that the banquet was all set up, but none of the immortals had arrived yet. The great sage transformed back to his original form, looked around, and began to feel hungry. He couldn't resist the temptation to have a little something to eat. A fragrant aroma of wine wafted over, and in a long corridor on the right, several immortal officials were busy preparing wine. They were accompanied by Taoist priests and young attendants, cleaning pots and dishes, and preparing to serve the brewed jade nectar and precious wine. Sun Wukong couldn't help but drool at the sight. He plucked a few strands of his own hair, chewed them into bits, and then blew them into the air while shouting, "Transform!" More than a dozen drowsy bugs flew straight onto the faces of those people. All of them lowered their heads. Their hands went limp, and they closed their eyes, lost in a deep slumber. Great Sage jumped over, picked up a wine vat, and guzzled it down. Glug, glug, in large gulps. After drinking this immortal wine, Great Sage immediately became dizzy and stumbled around, swaying from side to side. Despite his drunken appearance, he remained clear-headed and thought to himself that he should return to his mansion to sleep before the other immortals arrived and saw him in this state. Stumbling and bumbling, he accidentally found himself in the palace of the immortals and barged into the alchemy room of the Supreme Elderly Lord. The Supreme Elderly Lord was not present, but there were 5 gourds by the alchemy furnace, each containing refined golden pills. The great sage joyfully exclaimed, "It seems that I, Sun Wukong, am truly fortunate. While the Supreme Elderly Lord is away, I'll have a taste of these celestial pills." He seized one of the gourds, poured out a golden pill, and devoured it as if it were roasted beans. Having consumed the celestial pill, Sun Wukong's drunkenness wore off, and he realized the gravity of the situation. He thought to himself, "This is bad. This mishap is more significant than the heavens. If the Jade Emperor finds out, he'll surely take my life." When in a dilemma, it's best to retreat. He decided to employ the strategy of the 36th stratagem. To run away is the best choice. He wasted no time and, using his invisibility technique, made his escape from the South Heavenly Gate, heading straight back to Flower Fruit Mountain. The Heavenly Court was in turmoil. The heavenly peaches, wine, and elixirs had all been stolen. Queen Mother of the West, the Jade Emperor, the Supreme Old Lord, and the Barefoot Immortal all came to see the Jade Emperor to report the theft. The celestial beings spoke in a clamor, reporting the incident to the Jade Emperor. The Jade Emperor was both astonished and furious. Upon confirming that it was indeed the Monkey King's doing, the Jade Emperor immediately dispatched 100,000 heavenly soldiers and 18 layers of heavenly nets to capture the audacious monkey. 100,000 heavenly soldiers descended and surrounded Flower Fruit Mountain, making it impenetrable. The mountain's monkey inhabitants were terrified, fleeing like a bunch of frightened mice. The 9 luminaries star generals led the troops into battle, and Sun Wukong, fully equipped, stepped forward to confront them. To find out what happens next, please see the next episode.